All right, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to be taking our Arduino piano and actually creating code to make it work when we push the keys. Now, normally when we use buttons, we wire each button into its own digital pin, and then when we push the button, 5-volt electrons flow through to that pin, and the pin says, hey, it's on. When you let go, the 5-volt electrons stop, the digital pin says, hey, it's off. And that's the only mode it's had. It only has all on or all off. That's what digital means, either on, off, high, low. Those are the only settings. Well, the problem with that is we have so many buttons. We have 7 buttons. We've got a speaker. We've got 5 lights, 2 extra buttons. And if we used pins for all of those, we would need like 16 pins altogether. Now, we actually have enough pins on the Arduino to pull that off, but it's a ton of extra wiring. I want to show you a cooler approach. So instead of taking each of our 7 key pins to its own digital pin on the Arduino, we're going to wire them all into the same analog pin. And remember, analog pin doesn't have just on or off that it reads. It can read the voltage of electrons and give them a value anywhere between 0 and 1023. So there's 1024 technically possible values that the analog read can give us. So what we can do is, what we did is we set up each button to run through a resistor of different strength. That way, if the resistor is a smaller resistor number, like 30,000, it's going to run through and the electrons are going to lose only a tiny amount of energy. They're going to come out as high voltage, like 900 or something. As the resistor gets bigger, the electrons lose more energy going through the resistor, which means they have a smaller number in the analog read. So we can use those different values in analog read to be able to tell which button is being pressed, and then we can play a tone based on which button is being pressed. All right, so that's a lot. All we're going to do in this video is just how to use Arduino to figure out what those analog read numbers are for each of the 7 buttons. So to do that, we're going to open up a new sketch, create new sketch. And I'm going to change the name of my new sketch when it opens up to be Arduino Piano. And I'm going to put the year on there so I know what year I did this. I'm also going to add the word delete because this is a remake of the sketch. And I don't want to keep it for long term. So Arduino Piano. I'm just going to put delete on mine. Don't put delete on yours because I already have this built somewhere else. I just accidentally erased this video and have to re-record it now. So yay for me. All right, first thing we're gonna do is put a little description up here for what this sketch does. So this sketch controls the Arduino piano. Awesome, and I might even move this ending, this comment end up here to the end here. All right, in void setup, I know I'm going to need some pin mode. So I'm using the A5 pin for all my buttons. I don't actually do this step. I'm going to do it just because I like doing this. But I'm going to do a pin mode. And instead of typing in A5 here, I'm going to actually create a variable up top here above the void setup. So I'm going to enter a few lines, int for an integer variable. And I'm going to call this variable the key pin. So that's the pin on the Arduino where all the keys are plugged into, and that's A5 semicolon / / for a little comment here, and this creates a variable for the key pin, and technically it sets its value to A5 to start with. So now instead of pin mode putting in A5, I can just put key pin down there, comma, and I'm going to set it to an input. All of the, should turn teal when you get it spelled right, and the pin mode should be green here. All of the pins on Arduino start out by default being input. So you don't technically have to declare a pin mode if you're using it as an input. The only time you have to declare pin mode is when you're switching it from input to output. But I like to put on all of them just because it makes me happy. So pin mode here, so this sets A5 to be an input pin. All right, and it's an input because we're getting information from the buttons about which button is being pressed. So that information is coming in, so it's an input. All right. Now what we need to do is we need to read the value of the voltage on that key pin. To do that, we're not going to use digital read because digital read can only say high or low, 0, 1, on, off. We're going to use analog read. It's the same thing, so it still reads the voltage on the pin, but now I can return a value anywhere between 0 and 1023. So analog read, we're going to be reading the key pin. Put that there first. That's what comes first, is which pin are you reading. And remember, it's going to go get this value A5 and put it in here where it says key pin. And actually, that's all we need. We just need to read it. No more parameters in that one. Semicolon to end it. Now, remember how dumb Arduino is. You have to tell it exactly what to do. If it gets to this line of code, it's going to actually read the pin A5, see what voltage it is, and then immediately forget it. If you want Arduino to remember something, you have to give it a location to put it by making a variable. And you do that by out in front of the command, you type in the name of the variable. So in this, we're going to be storing the analog values for all the keys. So I'm going to call this key value, although you could call it anything you wanted. And then put an equal sign here and here. Now remember, the equal sign does not mean equal. I know that's confusing. What it really means is do whatever's on the right. In this case, read key pin and see what the voltage is, and then place the value from the right in the variable on the left. So this is where we're going to store it. So this is what we're storing and where we're going to store it. It does not mean equals. It kind of feels like equals sometimes, but it's definitely not an equal sign like in math. All right, // So here we're going to put creates a variable, oh, it doesn't create a variable here actually. That's a lie. This reads voltage on pin A5 and stores it in the key value variable. Awesome. So that's that one. What have I done wrong? Anything? Ooh, yeah, let's just upload it and see what happens. I wanted to throw this error so you can see what this error means. All right, sure enough, we threw an error. So I'm going to go back to the top. And this first paragraph in the error thing, I'm going to skip reading all of this and get to the end here. It says Arduino piano delete. That's just telling me which file I'm in. So I'm in this file. Fantastic. Now I'm coming down here and I search this some more and I say, okay, in function void loop. This part right here means that the void setup was okay. We're in void loop. And it says, next one, it says error, key value was not declared in the scope. So two big mistakes people typically make. Sometimes they'll misspell their variable and do like a lowercase v or mistype in like VLA or something weird. So see if that's the case. The second thing that people do a lot is they forget to create the variable. So here we use the key value variable, but we never made it up here. So I'm going to kick up here by key pin, hit enter, and do int key value. And that's going to equal, let's just give it 0 to start with. And then here creates the key value variable. And let me, wow, that was some really bad typing. Variable. And I'm going to actually get rid of that space and make that lowercase k to match. Okay. So now we're going to analog read key pin and store it in key value. The only problem is we can't see that happening. So if we run this code, it's like, well, did it work? And we're like, I don't know. Because there's no play tone, there's no nothing here going on. So the next thing we want to do is actually print these values on the screen so we can see what they are. All right, so here I'm going to come down here and go serial.print, and I'm going to add L in. Adding that L in means after you print the value, go to the next line. Instead of printing them next to each other, print them below each other. And I'm just going to put in here, I'm going to come up here and double click on key value and copy and paste it in. Now I can avoid making typo errors. And then semicolon here, and this is going to be displays the key value on the screen. Maybe serial monitor here, because that is what it's called. Awesome. Now before I can use serial.println, remember we've got to open a connection between the Arduino and the laptop. That doesn't happen automatically. So up here in void setup, I'm going to hit enter after this one, and I'm going to type serial.begin. And this is the command that creates that connection between the Arduino and the thing. And I'm going to give it a connection speed of 9600, just because that's the default one. And I don't want to mess with changing it. And then here, // and then this opens a serial connection with, or maybe I say between, Arduino and laptop. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run this and see if we can't see what's happening. All right, let's upload. Oh, let's open our serial monitor and see if we have values flashing by. Yay! Now, at this point, I expect it to be at 0, and it's at like in the 13, so that's not good, but it's not terrible either. If it was flashing to huge numbers, it might be a problem. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press on button C on my code. Oh, there it was. And I'm getting in like it looks like 250s at the lowest up to my like maybe 270s somewhere. So a range from 250 maybe to 280 to include all those 270s for C. When I go to, ooh, my serial monitor is really slow. When I go to D, I get in that like 400 to 14, so maybe 420 at the highest. So now I can go through and I can just find all of the values that I'm getting on my analog read when I push the button. So that was E that's on the screen right now. And now what I need to do is go update those on my assignment. All right, so we got to find this page in our assignment, and we're going to add the analog values for each key press down here. So I'm going to come back over here and open up a new serial monitor. This one looks jammed up. I'm going to close this. I'm going to actually re-upload this. My computer's running really slow right now. It must be tired. It's the end of a long day for both of us. So when it starts running sluggishly, what I find is if you re-upload the sketch, it usually solves that problem and runs a little faster. So open up a new serial monitor port here. See if I can't. Oh, can I have something else open? All right. Open a serial monitor, and I'm going to push down C. Now I want to find a range of numbers that include everything I'm seeing, but doesn't have too much in it. So I'm seeing it most, it looks like 260s and 270s, and maybe a 250 every once in a while. Let me hit pause and see if I can't flash through this real quick and see what I'm seeing. Yeah, every once in a while there's a 250 in there as well. So maybe I'm gonna do 250 up to 280 for my range. So what I'll do now is go back over to my assignment, and for C, I'm gonna say 250-280. I want a number that, oh, that's weird, that includes, my formatting went away. That includes all the numbers I'm seeing, so a range that's big enough to include everything, but not too big because I've got more than just those buttons to go. All right, that's that. And so now I'm going to do that for each button. So I'm going to go back and hold down D, see what the values are, and then record a range in for that. And in the next video, make sure. Oh, let's do this last thing here. Let's include this last line of code. This is the location of the pin for our speaker. So I'm going to come back here, and right below here, int speaker pin equals 8. And then this tells Arduino where the speaker is plugged in at. I don't know, that's kind of a weird way to say it, but that's okay. So that was, I think that's the end of the code. Let me make sure that I got to the same place. Pin mode tone. Okay, this isn't important. You can not worry about that tone part. We can add that later if we need to. Let me actually delete that from the assignment so you'll never see it. Pretend like you didn't see that. And then this is, everything else is in there. Fantastic. Okay. So that's it for the first video, my friends. Awesome job. Let me know if you have any questions or need some help with anything.